Thank you. The one behind you.
Thank you.
Speaking of short. Yeah. We need 2 more members to meet a quorum.
Yeah. What goes around? You see.
Two more. It's half plus 1. Yeah. We have 10 total, so 6. We're missing Stacy and Patrick. They're confirmed coming today. But everyone else is either not confirmed or not coming. And then, huh? Yeah. That's Councilwoman Dewar. Yeah. Audrey actually resigned, so she just missing Stacy and Patrick. So Roman, Stan, Donna, and Pat Cashel aren't gonna make it tonight. Hal's unconfirmed. He didn't indicate whether he's coming or not, so.
Was it everybody or do? They were good. They were good.
No one online yet.
We'll find. Thank you. Well, if I could to Zoom, I could Zoom.
So Patrick joined online. Patrick just registered and he's one of our members, so let me see if he comes in to the registration.
No. It's the amount that I.
Recording.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Good. What? Oh, there he is. Sure.
I never heard it work for him.
Okay.
And I can go to the next.
Panelists?
That all over.
Yeah, just that one. Hi, Stacy. Yes, Patrick's online. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If anyone has any public comment cards you have filled out, just bring those over to us, please, when you get a chance. Thank you. Oh, thanks.
Kelly, when the guys presenting, you had to minimize the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can see the full.
Yes. Okay. 5:30, we've got a quorum.
All right, thank you. I will call this meeting to order. Please call the roll and verify the presence of quorum.
Right. Sean McCoy,
Here.
Bill Shrimp,
Here.
Kristen Montan,
Here.
Roman Schomburg is absent. Stan Dowdy is absent. Patrick Fisher,
Virtually here.
thank you. Mike Ginsburg,
Here.
Stacy Shin,
Here.
Hal Taylor is absent. Donna Keats is absent. And Pat Cashel is absent. Also present is Councilwoman Naomi Dewar. I'm Staff Liaison Callie Shy. We also have Council Relations Liaison Jennifer Alvarez and Council Relations Intern Fernanda Ramos Rodriguez. With that, we have a quorum of the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Let's move on to A2, public comment.
Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you'll be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. I do have a few public comment cards in person. Okay, perfect. Does anyone have a preference to going online first or going in person? Okay, I'll start calling in person. If you'd like to speak under a specific specific agenda item, just let me know and I'll set your card aside for that item. But
Before you call.
Yeah.
And if you can come up here, right up here, and speak, so that way the people on Zoom can both see you and hear you. That'd be great.
first up, we have Richard Hill, followed by Wesley Liedblad, followed by Lindsay Holland. Richard Hill,
Yes, ma'am.
if you'd like to come up. Just state your name for the record, and we'll set the timer for 3 minutes.
You can stand or you can.
Is this the spot?
If you want to just scoot over so the
Yeah.
light's not in your eyes. Perfect.
And consider.
My name's Richard Hill, live at 760 South Arlington Avenue. I live in Midtown. I've lived there 40 years. Midtown is under attack by the city of Reno itself. Reno Housing Authority has acquired the old Holy Child site between Reno and Taylor, 1 block north of Mountwood Schools. They're planning to bring in, at this point, they're saying 44 low-income housing units. Now, these are people who are working and are receiving some assistance from the city, which is great. Housing in this community is tight and it's a problem. We understand that. At this point, though, what they're going to do is they're going to cut their parking requirements basically in half. Because you've got a 2-bedroom, you're going to have at least 2 cars, but they're only planning for 1. Now, this item isn't on your agenda, and I don't know how many of you even know about it. What I'm here tonight for is to ask you to please agendize this item so that you can hear what's going on. We appeared in front of the city council and their response was, take one for the team. Well, you need to know what they're doing because you're next. And Reno Housing Authority has come in and said, we don't need any more entitlements. There's nothing we need. Have a nice day. They've gone through a couple of pro forma meetings with the neighbors, but we have no input and we're not going to get any input. What I would ask you to do, I sat on the Ward 2 NAB for many years, and I chaired and sat on the Ward 1 NAB for many years. And when we get these kinds of projects where there are a bunch of people, rather than having them come up in theories, I would say to them, go out in the hall, select a representative, we'll give you additional time, and that way you hear from 1 or 2 people, not a dozen. There's the neighbor, one lady here this evening, that is my wife, and I know that there are other neighbors who are very concerned about this. People are fleeing the neighborhood because they're terrifying. Thank you. I would appreciate it greatly if you could agenda this and give me my phone and my email. And if you'd let me know, I'd be more than happy to come back. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Kristen Montan for the record, what are they afraid of?
This is gonna take, we've lived there for 40 years. There was a school there. They'd come in the morning, go home at night. That's it. One of the neighbors is going to have the garbage enclosure 5 feet from his bedroom window.
They're afraid of the garbage.
They're afraid of the massive influx of people and cars and people. Because this is Midtown, these are, I've lived there long enough to see Midtown go from rentals and not nice to real life. Thank you very much, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Wesley Liedblad, followed by Lindsay Holland, followed by Leslie Morgan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wesley Liedblad, and I've been a River Park resident since 2016. And I'm talking today about the 104-foot tower proposal that's happening in your neighborhood. And I want to start with this. This is not a discussion about allowing cell phone towers in the area. A 55-foot tower is already zoned for that site per code. The real question is whether the city will allow anything over 55 feet within the Truckee River corridor. And with that said, the Lawson Tower proposal is not consistent with the Reno Master Plan or the conditional use permit requirements in this area. The Reno Master Plan, zoning specifications, and conditional use permit requirements along the Truckee River call for river-oriented development, protection of the river corridor character, and projects that do not cause significant, lasting harm to nearby neighbors, the public, including visual or property impacts. While there are low-rise buildings and some older industrial features in this area that were developed in the past, the current master plan adopted in 2017 is supposed to guide what we allow from this point forward. And in that vision, anything taller than 55 feet along the Truckee River does not fit the scale or character of the city or the character of the area that the city says it wants for the Truckee River corridor. Thousands of Reno residents visit this space and recreate and enjoy the Truckee River and natural area. Once the tower goes above 55 feet, it breaks the skyline and becomes a visual standout feature of that area. A tower smaller than 55 feet might be absorbed, but anything taller than that changes the look and feel of the valley and is outside the scope of what the master plan had intended for that area. Additionally, all major cell carriers already provide 5G service in that area and in around the surrounding area. This isn't just me saying it, it's clearly outlined on their coverage. Saying no to anything above 55 feet does not block wireless service coverages or upgrades. It simply avoids unnecessary extra height that harms the neighborhood and river corridor views. The unnecessary visual harm this project brings is not compatible with the area and does not meet the requirements of being materially detrimental to the public welfare. It also matters who lives with the impact of the tower. The tower company and their consultants do not live here, and they will collect their lease checks and go home. We live here, Reno citizens recreate here, we walk the trails, we bike the bike paths, and we relax in the Truckee River. And we will be the ones looking at this tower every day. And so I'm asking you, treat 55 feet as the real limit to this site and deny any tower height above 55 feet, as this location is inconsistent with the Reno Master Plan and the conditional use permit of this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Holland, then Leslie Morgan.
Well, I don't even know what a NAB is. Okay, so a NAB is a Neighborhood Advisory Board. All of these members have been appointed by the city council to serve on the NAB. They, over time, since they've been serving 1 to 2 years, they've gotten used to reviewing development applications at our meetings. One of their jobs is to make comments. We're going to have a presentation from the proposed developer, the advocate. And then they'll make comments. Those comments will go back to the staff, because this particular project does not go to the planning commission. It is basically designed by right, but the idea here is they've asked for something that it is not designed for, a taller cell tower with other bells and whistles, which we'll hear the presentation. So you're speaking to these people. They're supposed to make a recommendation back to the staff, and the staff will also listen to this meeting on this. Okay.
And is this only for
Ward
development?
No.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it's about development, but we also, you'll hear in my briefings a little later, we cover all kind of things the city's covering.
Okay, so this works here. So my name is Lindsay Holland, and I live at 2490 East Shore Drive. And if you don't know, East Shore Drive is the street opposite of Lakeside. It's on the east side of Virginia Lake. Well, I've lived there since they tore down all the bungalows and they put up condos in the front on the street. And then behind the condos are apartments. And we are separate entities. I live in one of the condos on the street. And they're separate entities. We don't have anything to do with the apartments behind us. And they don't have anything to do with us. So what I'm talking about today is the speeding on that street. It's 15 miles an hour, and I don't know if you've been over there anytime recently, but nobody goes the speed limit. I had the engineers from the Reno Public Works come out and do a speed study, and we didn't even have to get signatures. They found that there was so much speeding that we didn't even need to get people's signatures to get speed bumps put in. Well, they're not working. People don't step on their brakes. They go right over them. There's those little tiny speed bumps. Lakeview Apartments has now changed their address from 635 Brinkby to East Shore Drive. So that's Lakeview Apartments. And then the apartments behind me, which are called Edgewater, they also are on East Shore Drive. Both of those sets of apartments have two entrance and two exits. So it's on either side of the street. If you've lived here for any length of time, you know that that it's 15 miles an hour around there. Lakeside does better than we do on our east side. It's horrible over there. The speeding is horrible. I left you an email, but
Oh, thank you.
yes. There is a total between Lakeview Apartments and Edgewater Apartments that dump out onto East Shore Drive. There's 616 units. 616 that dump out on East Shore Drive. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to walk my dog. There's been accidents in front of my place. One guy was a drunk driver and flipped his car over on the route. And the other one looked at his phone and hit the car right underneath my place. They go so fast over there. We had the cops come out, and they, in 1 hour, they don't stick around. In 1 hour, they gave 3 tickets. So imagine if they had stayed for a couple of hours, they would have got some people. So I'm afraid to walk my dog, because if somebody takes their eyes off the road and they're doing 35 or 40 miles an hour, I could get killed. So it's a speeding issue over on the east side.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Leslie Morgan, followed by Nanette Fink Eaton, followed by Brooklyn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Morgan, and and I live at 8751 White First Street, and I've lived there for 26 years, and I am imposing this 104-foot cell tower right outside of our neighborhood. This tower would be a total eyesore. Every time I drive home, I'm gonna have to look at it. It would destroy the look, the feel, the views of the Truckee River. This project goes against the Truckee River beautification plan that I've read about. And you would also be able to see the tower from the river as if you're floating down the river or enjoying the river in that area. You're going to be able to see this tower looming up above you. And you're going to even be able to see it from Mayberry Park, which is full of people all the time. This cell tower would possibly, and I believe, affect our property values. Realtors Magazine once said that the increasing number of people that don't, an increasing number of people don't want to live in neighborhoods near cell towers. In some areas with new towers, property values have decreased up to 20%. I personally would never, ever buy a house by a cell tower or close to it. And lastly, the potential of health issues is just really kind of scary. Prolonged exposure to radio frequency radiation, particularly when it's in close range, has raised concerns regarding its potential health effects. Studies suggest that constant exposure could cause neurological issues, dizziness, sleep disorders, all kinds of neurological things, including cancer. So anyway, this tower would affect hundreds of people that live in the neighborhood of Riverbanks and have been in that neighborhood for a long, long time. Well, one developer is gonna profit at our expense. In my opinion, we surely don't need the tower. I've heard people in the neighborhood say that reception isn't that great. But if you simply set your phone to go to internet the minute you're home, you're not gonna have any problems. I've been doing that for 26 years. So anyway, I hope you guys rule against this project. I just don't think it's for our neighborhood at all.
So I want to explain that the NAB does not rule pro or con. They don't make a decision, but they do send concerns, thoughts, support to the deciders. In this case, the deciders are the staff. And let me just be clear as well. If you do not like what the staff have agreed to or authorized, you can appeal. There is a very short time for appeal. It's 10 days, 10 calendar days. And in that case, it would go to the city council. Okay, so I invited the developer here tonight because I got about 30 letters. And I wanted the developer to have an opportunity to speak to the people and answer questions from the people before the staff complete their review.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Right, next up we have Nanette Fink Eaton, followed by Brooklyn, followed by Catherine Hall. Catherine?
Hello, thank you. I'm Nanette Fink Eaton, and I am reiterating what Richard Hill shared with us. He was our first speaker. And I have property at 450 Reno Avenue and 800 South Arlington. And that is where the project is that he is referring to with the Reno Housing Authority. And I too would like you to agendize what's going on there. I am concerned about the parking. I did exactly what Naomi suggested when we went to the city council. And I went and I viewed all those houses and they were lovely, quite lovely. Thank you.
Other projects they've done.
Yes, they were fabulous. However, and this is a big however, the parking is still a concern. They're looking at 44 units that they're gonna bring in, and bless their hearts for doing what they're doing and helping people have affordable living. And they do vet the people, which I truly appreciate. It's just not anybody walking through the doors. They're vetted properly. And it is the parking. Have consideration for the people that are already there. Mr. Hill's been there, as he shared, for over 40 years. And then to have just this influx of people coming in, it is high density traffic that's going to be coming in. They say that low-income people are not necessarily vehicles. Not true. That is their lifeline. That is their lifeline. I know too well about that situation. So I really employ this board to consider bringing that to the attention of the city and having this reviewed, highly reviewed. We know it's coming. There's no stopping it. But please have consideration for the residents who have lived there and continue to live there. And yeah, they are in fear, not just because of the garbage, but because of the disruption of their peaceful, lovely neighborhood. So let's all be good neighbors here. That's how I'd like it to be. Thank you so much.
And just a word for everyone. So the Reno Housing Authority project does not require a discretionary review like the other ones we're going to hear today. What they did require was they asked for, as I recall, home funds from the city, which the city has to sign off if they're going to get some extra funding. The city did sign off, but we did not sign off on a design or a number of units or style units. Now, there's an overlay. It's called the Plumas overlay. Plumas neighborhood overlay. And that requires that you can't have more than a 2-story building. And you can't have a pitched roof, as I recall. It has to be, but it has to be at a general angle. It can't be a flat roof. So those were left over from when they actually had a neighborhood plan. And the plan was done away with, but those factors were incorporated into this area. So at our request, city council request, they did have a public meeting at, what was it, 2 weeks ago, or I'm losing track, but 3 weeks ago. I did attend, there was probably 10, 15 people there, I wanna say. And they set up charrette boards. They proposed a design, a look, a feel, parking. What I'm hearing you say is that it's still not enough parking. One of the things that they are doing because of the restriction on height, it restricts how many units you can have. And so that in turn restricts how much parking you might need. But to the earlier point, they're not just one bedroom units, they could have 2 bedrooms. They could have a couple and 1 or 2 children, I think that's the max.
You have 2 couples, that's 4.
Or children that drive, I'm just saying you could have potentially 4 drivers in a 2 bedroom. Unlikely, but you could. And so this is an issue I hear a lot in our neighborhoods about concern about parking. I heard it with the ADU conversation, and I always hear it when we have multifamily. And so I think I think they're planning one more meeting with the community once they sort of zoom in on their design or finalize a design that they're gonna propose to, I think it'd go to building. You could still appeal a building permit. Okay, it's lesser known, many people don't know about that. So still the same time frame. It would go, I believe there's a mediator or a hearing officer goes to for building permit. Before it would go to potentially city council, or I don't know the entire path for building permits, we don't get that many appeals in building. So, I don't though believe that the city staff, unlike the cell tower, have to weigh in and approve a permit. Does anybody know differently? Have you heard that there is one? Cause I haven't heard differently.
We've been told there's nothing we can
Right.
do, get out of the way.
Yeah,
Don't get hurt.
okay, well, I wouldn't exactly characterize it that way, I heard
No.
mixed messages.
Oh, no.
But, you know, I think they actually were quite respectful when the council, shared their concerns. And, I think they're working through the project. I will share that recently, not far away, the council, which a project had to come to the council, which did exceed this neighborhood limits. It was 3 stories. It was a flat roof and they wanted an exception and the council voted no. So we denied the permit. So I just wanted, I just want to share some recent past action. And I think that's one reason we put RHA on notice is that, if you're wanting to expand beyond what the zoning allows, you may or may not get that approved. You'd have to get special permit. So, okay, well, that's all I have to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
was there any discussion about the deviation parking allowances for this project?
They weren't asking for a reduction, that's what.
Yeah, that's.
No,
But they are, but they are.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just.
Because it's low income housing and because there's a bus
Understood.
stop on Arlington,
Yeah.
they can come in with half the
Okay.
parking.
But I don't know that they are. Not the part.
It's not even half.
Okay, so, we need to watch out for that,
Yeah.
clearly.
But I think to answer your question,
Yeah.
Mr. Foster, with the city, who is the one that is in charge of
Yeah.
that. For that whole process with
Yeah.
the city. He's the one that could okay things without any review.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I have to find out is he issuing a permit or is he just reviewing it for the building permit? It's a different process. So one is called an entitlement, which when you go through planning, and the other is like a permit approval of a building. It's the 2 different things.
I'll follow up with you on that issue later this week.
Yeah.
Thank
Please
you.
do. Okay. So at least you know what it's about. And you're not just going, where is this and what are they doing? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Brooklyn, followed by Catherine Hall, followed by Eric Shepner.
You want to stand right there? There you go. Perfect.
this summer, my friends come over and we play on the river. And that's kind of like one piece of my house, blah, blah, blah. And I usually go to the river with my sister and my dad, and sometimes my mom. My cousins come to me play in the river. And it's going to be disturbing if there's like a cell phone tower right in front of us. And we will probably be spending as much time together outside.
Is that it?
I love nature and playing outside, and I did not want the cell phone tower to be harming my views because sometimes when I get bored, I like to look at my parents and and see the river, and it's really pretty. And I don't want to see my cell phone.
That was phenomenal. Right? Can I ask, what grade you're in? Third grade. Have you ever done public speaking before? No, this is your first? Well, you did a phenomenal job. Your whole family should be proud as well as your whole neighborhood. And what I was very impressed with as well, recently I gave a presentation and I had to look at my paper, which I don't that often. You barely looked at your paper. You must have even memorized this whole thing, or at least you know what you want to say in your heart. Is that right? Thank you for being here. Very cool.
Next up, we have Catherine Hall, followed by Eric Scheffner. Then we'll move online to Zoom.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to let us weigh in, Naomi and Michael, and thanks for being so accessible for something that's really near and dear to me. I also oppose the 104-foot cell phone tower that is being proposed and near the river at River Park Community. Growing up as and I have to look at my paper, so growing up as a Tahoe local, I've always appreciated the spectacularly profound beauty of the Truckee River. It is the lifeline, in my opinion, of our city. I mean, when I went to Boise, I wanted to move there, and it was because of the river. When we moved to Reno, it was because of the river. It was the life the river brought. It was the community that it brought, the sports. And as Wesley mentioned, our neighborhood was originally more industrial, and now it's just becoming more and more beautified. They put in I think it was like $5 million to put in a really nice roundabout at the beginning. And then now they're proposing $3 million to do beautification of the sidewalks that go along the community that would actually go right in front of where they're proposing the cell phone tower. So to me, it's at odds. We were on a hike today and we noticed that they were building a bridge. That was a really nice bridge, which I'm sure is another big investment for the hiking up above Mayberry Park. And all of those views that people come from all over the city, bikers, people in the rivers, for fishing and swimming, and they would all have, if we go 104 feet, that is so tall. I don't think people quite understand and grasp like 104 feet. If you look at the city maps of Reno and you look at cell phone towers, there's nothing even close to that in the main Reno area. It's really like up in Mount Rose, like up on the hill somewhere far, or surrounding areas up in the hills. So that put that right in the valley, and albeit it's not right next to the river, technically, it's I think 800 feet away or so. It's going to impede all of those valley views. And anyone that's walking and hiking up the Tom Cook Trail or biking, that's going to be an impediment, and it's going to be extremely bigger than anything else in that area. I think probably like 20 feet is the biggest buildings in that area. So it's going to totally kill the views. Now that I don't want to use all my minutes. Oh, another thing just to mention too, what makes our area really special too is that the Great Basin area where they're proposing this tower is the warmest part of the river in the entire Reno area. And the reason being is there's a lot of hot springs feeding into that area. And because it's the warmest part, there's a lot of fish. So, and there's a lot of people wanting to swim there. So that's why a lot of people flock. But fishermen, whatever, I'll stop. Anyhow, in closing, this is like dear and near to me because I feel like anything, we have to protect our river. We have to protect our river views for everything from filling our spirits to property values to making our city as special as it already is and preserving our resources. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Eric Scheffner, then we'll move online to Ken and Kai.
I'm Eric. I'll keep it short. A lot of you have already brought up points. It's about the cell tower as well. Reno's my home now. I've been here a little while. I moved around a lot before that. I've lived in areas who haven't done a good job kind of stewarding their open space, green space areas. And I've lived in some that have done a good job. I feel like this tower is pollution, you know, both site-wise and you know, signal wise. And I feel like it's imperative on us, on the city, to try and protect the valley, the space around the river, and really kind of guard it and perpetuate it. It's a
All right, we'll move to Zoom. If you don't have your hand raised but would like to make comment, please raise your hand. We'll start with Ken. I will. All right, Ken, when you're ready, you can unmute your mic and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. If you're talking, Ken, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Great, thank you. I'm not sure if my video is coming through, but that's fine. My name is Ken Zemek. I live at 8821 White Fir Court. I've lived there, my wife, since around 2015. So I am a resident of the local community. I'll try and be brief here. I sort of have two classes of objections. One is how this is rolled out. It seems to be a giant dearth of information and communication with the local community. For instance, people have talked about, will this cell tower help cell reception in the area? Well, I have no idea. Who's the carrier? Is there a carrier? Is this a private network? Regardless of what the answer is, it's emblematic of the lack of community involvement that has been initiated. So getting to specific issues, 104 feet, you know, it's like a 10-story building that is completely incongruous with the local zoning and the local area. 55 feet, which I believe is what should be the maximum allowed, which is still pretty large. That's something that I think is reasonable for discussion. It's not that I am anti-development, but there has to be some coordination and consideration of the local community. For instance, I heard there's going to be a chain link fence around it. Now, I'm 100% okay with site security and protection of that. That's fine. But has there been any aesthetic consideration around that? For instance, when that new commercial building went in at the corner of White Fir and Woodland, sure, it was a giant building, but they spent money and consideration in how they decorated the outside of the building. They planted trees. They worried about all of the aesthetics of the outside of the building to help it blend in with the community. There was actual effort to try and be an active part of that business community and thus the local community. And this project seems to have considered none of that as far as I can tell. And that is my objection. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, we have Kai Schwartz. Then we'll go to Melissa Morales.
Great. Can you all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Fabulous. So I'm also a resident of the riverfront community that's adjacent to Mayberry Park and the Tom Cook Trail. Also speaking about the current proposal to install a permanent 100-foot cell phone tower along our riverfront valley. And I'd like to urge the council to let staff know about resident concerns to allow a developer to construct and benefit financially from the degradation of our kind of shared riverfront and visual landscape. The Tom Cook Trail is used by countless hikers. The river is used by fishers, rafters, and kayakers. The Riverfront Valley is the entrance of Reno to the Sierra Nevadas, and installing a 100-foot cell phone tower on our riverfront would degrade the quality of the area and goes against the spirit of the Truckee Riverfront Beautification Plan. So I hope this committee would advise the city staff to disallow the construction of a 100-foot permanent cell phone tower on our riverfront corridor.
Thank you, Kai. We'll move on to Melissa Morales, then Matt Leone.
Yeah, yes, hi, this is Raul Morales using Melissa Morales' computer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, first of all, I live on 314 Riverfront Drive. I agree with all the other issues that have been brought up about this tower. I guess really at this point, I really have a question, and I'm glad you invited the developer to come and talk. Given that I have watched the clearing of this, what I did not know at the time was going to be the cell phone tower pad over the course of this summer, I'm just curious why someone would move forward spending what I believe is probably well over $1 million getting this site prepped for a project that hasn't been approved yet. So I am curious about what's going on behind the scenes that someone would do this, and maybe the developer can speak to that when that person's opportunity comes up. Thank you.
I'll just tell you that a clearing and grading permit is separate from a building permit. Or you can call them both two kinds of building permits. I myself tend to agree with you, and I've brought this up many times at council, that clearing a site prior to receiving a permit to build the thing you want to build seems very disjointed, disconnected, and potentially, if it's not approved, a waste of money. And I'll give you an example. The project I mentioned earlier that we did not approve, called I guess it's called Mount Rose. I lost its name, but it was a 39-unit apartment complex on Mount Rose Street in Plumas. It had 6 homes on it, and the developer cleared those homes with the anticipation of putting these 39 apartments, but it was not approved. It's a good example of, they've done a lot of site prep without knowing they're moving forward. So I used to work for another permitting agency earlier in my career, and we did not allow clearing before you got your permit. And I was surprised when I came on council that these are 2 separate actions, even though they're obviously completely tied together. So I hear you, but your other point I can't answer, which is why spend the money, right? So you will have to ask the developer about that.
Thank you.
All right, last up is Matt Leone.
Time starts now. Good evening. I served on the Northwest Neighborhood Advisory Board for 7 years. I know how things work, or at least I knew how things worked back in those days. This hasn't worked the way we used to do things. The sign went up to notify us of this meeting Sunday. We knew nothing about this project in terms of any sort of posting. No neighborhood knock on the doors, nothing in our mailboxes, nothing hanging on our doorknobs, nothing. And that's not how we used to do it. They would have to notify so many houses within such a distance. So irrespective of the height, which I think is absurd for that area, irrespective of the health issues that are still being discussed, I think the whole process has been very surreptitious and extremely under the board. And I'm not happy about that. So if you're the developer and you're here, you got some answer to do, because you did not do things the way we used to do it. Dave Iazzi, when I was on the board, made sure that everything was done properly. And this group, when I was on this group, made sure that things were done before we made a decision. Now, I understand your advisory, that's what the A stands for. You don't have any authority anyway. And we didn't either. But as far as this process has gone, it has not gone the way city council used to do it. Back when city council was concerned about the neighborhood. We've lived there 26 years. And I think something like that in the neighborhood is absurd. 104 feet, 10-story building. You can never get that through if they're trying to build a building there. Why is so? So I'm looking forward to hearing what the developer has to think.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt, for that comment. I want to be clear about something. Normally, this project would never come to the neighborhood advisory board. It's not, does not go to the planning commission, does not go to the city council. It does not have, those kind of discretionary permits. The only reason it's here is because I got your letters. And I asked the developer, who is not mandated to come here and to meet with the neighbors. Now, I don't know about the noticing. I'm not out there. I don't know when the noticing went up. I know that they did not pay their fee to apply for the permit until, I think it was December 10th. Whatever day, it was the day of council, so that might have been December 12th. So it wasn't even officially a project until they paid the fee. And I think the sign went up as soon as, within a day of them paying the fee. So we were a little bit ahead of the game. The neighborhood found out about the project, was writing in. But they weren't officially a project yet until they completed their application and paid the fee. So I view this as an extra. So when you're on the neighborhood advisory board, everything that came there was ultimately going to go to planning commission or council. And again, this is not. So this is pretty special. I've only done it one or two other times. Had a developer come for a project that wasn't going to planning council.
We do appreciate.
Yeah, so I'm just sharing how this came to be, and I understand your dissatisfaction, but there are a few extenuating circumstances. So virtually no projects that go to the staff come to the neighborhood advisory board. I'll give you one other example. I had received about 100 letters about a project that was not coming to planning commission or council. This was a oil change operation over on Mayberry, Hunter Lake and Mayberry. Again, I asked the developer, he actually flew in from Utah. This developer's in Florida, so he's gonna be appearing on Zoom today. But flew in from Utah. That project was ultimately denied actually as well. So that's where we are.
We have one more public commenter. Amy Caniger, when you're ready, unmute your mic and state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Amy Caniger and I live at 8711 White Fir Street. So I'm right up the road from the proposed cell phone tower, and I'm commenting today to oppose. I'm in opposition of the 104-foot tower being installed. We moved to the neighborhood in 2018 and moved to Reno in 2012. We absolutely love our neighborhood. I know that everyone in Reno loves their little neighborhood and says, oh, we have the best neighborhood, but we truly do. In the summer, we're at the river at least 3 times a day with a dog, with the kid, with the neighbors. Everyone joins in. We watch the birds, we watch the beavers, we watch the otter. It's just a very unique, special neighborhood. And you will not meet one person here who doesn't say, gosh, how lucky we are to live here. What a beautiful neighborhood, what wonderful neighbors we have. It's an amazing place. And the idea of having this developer coming in and putting in this massive 10-story tower to profit from that solely for the idea of profitability, not necessarily them living there, not them enjoying the area, but solely for profit is just so disheartening. So please bring our concerns to whoever they need to go to so we can help preserve our wonderful little neighborhood. Thank you.
I have another on Zoom, Stephanie Koning.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Koning. I live in the same neighborhood as Ms. Caniger, the last speaker. I live at 183 River Flow in the River Park neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about this proposed cell tower. I want to be clear at the outset, I'm not opposed to cell service or improving connectivity, but I am opposed to building a 104-foot industrial tower at this particular location on the Truckee River because it fails the basic standards of compatibility, visual impact, and public welfare for our river corridor. in addition to the meaning and how special of a neighborhood it is, it just does not even meet the requirements of this mixed use suburban zoning area and suburban mixed use master plan designation. And there's no other 100-foot structure, as other people have already mentioned, along this reach of the river. Nearby buildings and trees are roughly 25 to 30 feet. From River Park, the Tom Cook Trail, the river path, and surrounding homes, this monopole would become the single defining feature of the skyline. It's not compatible with surrounding development, and it clearly undermines the intent of SMU for suburban scale river oriented development. Second, the project conflicts directly with recent and planned public investments in the area, as others have mentioned. The new roundabout at 4th and Woodland and the upcoming RTC White Fir Rehabilitation Project, which Catherine also mentioned. They both use taxpayer dollars to improve safety, aesthetics, and the visitor experience. Approving a 100-foot commercial tower and fenced equipment yard in the middle of the same corridor sends the opposite message. It undermines the community's investment in this riverfront as a recreational and scenic asset. And then third, I am a professor of public health, and I have legitimate concerns about the public health impacts, what we do know and what we don't know. I've been told that those aren't under consideration, but it's still highly relevant to think about what's going to happen if and when we find out more about the impacts for the families that live within this area. Hundreds of residents, families, and children use this stretch of the river, trails, and parks every day. At a minimum, I would ask that there's more documentation and assessment of the public health and safety. What was evaluated, what will be evaluated, what standards are applied, and how compliance will be monitored over time, and what will happen if we do start to see adverse impacts. In some, the proposal is out of scale. It's not necessary. It's visually incompatible with surrounding development and misaligned with both our zoning intent and our significant public investments in riverfront beautification. So I am adamantly opposed to this. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I do not have any additional public comment.
Last call for in the room or on Zoom.
I have something.
Yeah, you wanna, can you fill out a card after?
Yeah. Sent several emails and concerns. My name's Larry Merkel. I live
If you hold up to get up here and then. Okay.
My name's Larry Merkel. I live at 26 River Park Road. This cell tower is gonna be 800 foot from my window. My window. I don't know about you, but I don't think anybody in this room would want a cell tower 800 foot from their window. This area is so beautiful. The city has designated the end of the road access to the people swim there all the time. People, they put dogs out there all the time, fish all the time. It's just immaculate. And they're talking to put a cell tower at the lowest point in that corner. 1,000 foot away. It's several hundred foot above the cell tower. To the west of the neighborhood, it goes up to 6,400 feet. Who are they trying to get that? Even at 100 foot. And I've been there since 2007. 19 years next month. I ran two businesses that relied on 24/7 calls. Never missed a call. There's never need for a cell tower to run my business. And I don't see where the need is now, especially with technology. Here in a few years, there's not going to be a need for cell towers and satellite stuff. And what is the purpose of this cell? Who's it going to serve? It's not going to serve me. But I know when I look at the sunrise, first thing I'm going to see is a 100-foot cell tower right in the middle of my window. And I will say this, I will pick up this project once it goes. And I will get friends and neighbors to pick it with me. It's not. It is not. Thank you.
And any last speakers on Zoom? you could raise your hand. Your virtual hand.
Okay, I don't see any more public comments, so we're gonna proceed to item A3, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Councilmember Shrimp.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Moving on to item A4, approval of the minutes. So, the minutes weren't ready in time from September for our last meeting, so that's why I got 2 sets of minutes here. September's minutes, I think are the last set of minutes prepared by the prepared note secretary minute provider. In October, minutes are provided by our very own NAB member, Montan. So thank you very much for doing that. I thought they looked great. But if anybody saw anything that needed changes, we'll start with A41 from September. Looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
Gettysburg for the record, I move to approve the September 23rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Chris Montan, for the record, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item A42, October 21st, 2025 minutes. Again, looking for a motion to approve.
Member Strength, motion to approve the October 2025 minutes. Second.
I'll second. McCoy. Second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. While she answers that, I'll just kind of point out that the minutes were available in the packets today. Doesn't help everybody, the packets are gone. The agenda, however, when it's posted, will have a link. And so I didn't see that today when I looked on the agenda that was kind of, I think, one of the emails, we have some emails on there, but one of them, they have a drop down link, you click on it, and it'll have all the different items, staff report, presentation, everything that's kind of in this big packet was available online. I don't know if it's something we can ask in the future to make sure that all NAB members have one of these big packets to have on our table, so that everybody who's here makes sure that they get one or not. I don't know if that's always been the case, or
I assume we can do that.
I think it's helpful sometimes just to kind of be able to go back and look through some of these things as the NAB member, if we don't have our electronic equipment to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to show everyone like where to access it online. We can look into it. I know we kind of cut down on printing, so that's why we don't print packets for everyone. We bring one packet. I know it's not enough for everyone, but we can talk about that further.
Thank you. Moving then to A5, council liaison reporting.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to me. If you haven't been here before, again, it's the Neighborhood Advisory Board. And these folks are working hard every month to review projects and make recommendations to the deciders, whether that's city staff, planning commission, or city council. We started a new process where one NAB member, the chair, the vice chair, or the secretary will actually make a formal report. We didn't used to do that, so that's actually an enhancement so that the decider actually understands what the NAB was thinking, if they didn't avail themselves to read the notes. One other thing I wanted to mention is that I was concerned with the latest proposed change, which was to no longer have a minute taker, but have one of the members of the NAB do the minutes. I already explained my perception or perspective I appreciate all of your time just to be here and evaluate what's going on and make recommendations. And I think that that's a regular city job that we're asking a volunteer to do. So I had said that going forward from last meeting, we'd have a paid minute taker. When the city went to, and I offered to pay for it with my council funds, which we have a small amount of money to manage things like this. When the city staff went to contact the the note takers, they found out that the two the city had been using were no longer doing. And so they could not obtain the services. That doesn't mean we're going, so we are having to do it here today, Kristen.
I don't mind at all.
Okay, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop looking. I'm gonna actually call those minute takers and find out why they decided to stop doing it. And see if there's any other ones locally in our community that are maybe being hired by other boards and commissions. So that's just a housekeeping piece. We just had our last council meeting last Wednesday for about a month, so the next one will be January 14th. One of the things that could be on that agenda or could be on the next agenda is the Lake Bridge development has come here. It has gone to planning commission. They approved it. I think it was a 6-1 vote, 6 in favor, 1 opposed. I think this group, the NAB, sent in a lot of comments. And in fact, I saw extra comments like some of you wrote to the planning commission. However, they decided to approve it. And it sounds like there was a number of conditions added perhaps at the meeting that were not generally agreed to before the meeting. And that's very hard to track because these are verbal promises, they're not in writing. And it's not clear what exactly they're promising often, it's kind of vague. I hope that the staff are gonna update the staff report, so I actually know what the planning commission approved. But if you have interest in that project, it's supposed to come up in January, I just don't know exactly when. What I wanted to do now, since we do have 2 presenters, is just to open it up for a few quick questions. If anybody has a question about anything of me, otherwise I'm going to go right into the development presentation. So does anybody either on the NAB have a question for me on anything at the moment? And what about, yes, Bill?
Why didn't we meet last month?
Why don't we meet last month? There were no development projects and there was nothing on the agenda.
So my thought behind that is I do know development projects are a driver of this process, but I do know that we met in October, we talked about our sewer project, and I do know that the council has met a couple of times since we met last time.
Yeah.
And I think it's always helpful to hear your perspective on what's happened in some of the meetings. So I know it's a resources for staff and everything like that, but
Well, it was not staff resources that canceled the meeting. It was lack of both staff items and development items. And they asked me, and I said, sure, you can go ahead and cancel the meeting, unless something comes up. So that's how we left it. And that's how we did it. I'm very, what can I say, preserving of your time and appreciative of your time. And so I don't want to call you in just for a chat, let's say a half-hour chat about something. That's how I felt, but if you feel different, I'm open to hearing that.
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
Our chat, no, but it seems
Yeah.
like we always put time anyway.
Yeah, we always do have a good time, so. Any other questions from the NAP members? I'll come right back to you. Okay, how about in the audience? Yes.
On the Lakewood project, how many days ahead of the meeting? What's going on?
So for those online, the question was, how many days notice do people get before projects heard? And the minimum from the state is 3 days. That's not counting the day of the meeting. So if it's gonna be heard on a Wednesday, they have to post that by 9 o'clock on Friday. Typically, they send it out the night before, so Thursday evening around 5 o'clock is, maybe 4 o'clock is typically when it goes out. There is a draft agenda, however. It is under something called, I think, council memos. And in the council memos, they send a memo to the council that says what they expect to see on the agenda. And you can get that, and that usually will come out the Tuesday before the Wednesday council meeting, about 9-ish days before. Okay, so if you type in council memos, which is an interesting thing to see anyway. You can learn a lot about what the city's thinking about, what the staff are talking about. So, okay. Anyone else have a question?
Can I add to that,
Yeah,
Councilmember Dewar?
please.
I also believe for planning projects, those yellow signs go out, and I think council sends out postcards as well as the planning department does for planning commission. So that's no?
They do, but it's not tied to when something's going to the council meeting.
Okay.
It's tied to when we receive an application and then the developer has to post the yellow sign
Yes.
within so many days of submitting. I believe it's 10 days. So that's what that's about. It's not about when it goes to council.
I do know for planning commission, the signs get posted 10 days before the meeting.
Yeah.
And just from my past work with city council, there's also an element where it gets published in the Reno Gazette Journal. So there's some other advanced notice, I believe, in NRS that requires those to be noticed.
My part, sorry, and keep beating this horse. Those postcards don't go to people who live in the property, they go to property owners.
Correct.
So if you live in
So-
an apartment building, you don't get notice.
So about half our people in Reno are renters, so they don't own the property, whether it's an apartment, a house. They don't get a notice, and Bill and I are in alignment. I brought this up the first year I was on council 12 years ago. And I asked that we change our process to send it to people that live there, because they're the ones who are often most concerned. But no changes been forthcoming. I did ask for another change at that time, and that was to expand the area where the notice was given. And they did do that. So a little win, a little loss. It's something worth continuing to talk about, because again, 50% of the people are disenfranchised. You don't need to own property to be a voter. That went out a long time ago. Basically, our right to vote. And I think similarly, you don't need to own property to know what's going on in the city. Any other comments in the audience? Okay, we'll see none. Let me hand it back to you, Mr. Chair. And we can get on with the agenda. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Dewar, the next item is going to be a 6 staff liaison report. What do you have for us?
All right. I'm thinking maybe we skip through the bulk of the presentation just because I know we have a kind of a time constraint tonight. Here we go.
And for those of you in the audience, we have kind of a drop dead time of 7:30 for these meetings. It's kind of the downside of meeting here in such a nice kind of local feel that our staff services end at 7:30. If we were to meet in downtown city council chambers, we could go until midnight. You're not going to go either. So yeah.
Is the developer going to speak?
Yeah.
Yes.
Next.
Yep. After the liaison report.
Okay, so I'll run through some of the things we know. Reno Direct is the city's non-emergency service center. If you're looking for this information, it is on the staff liaison report online. So I'll just move through. Quorum reminder, please make sure you confirm your attendance with me and respond to our board secretary if you're contacted. Within a few weeks, I'm going to send out quorum checks for the first quarter of 2026, so January, February, March. So keep an eye out for that and check your calendars to see if you'll be available for our meetings. For members of the board and members of the public, if you'd like to sign up for some of the city newsletters, these are the 3 I recommend for the purposes of the NAB, to see development projects, planning commission agendas, and city council agendas, as well as the Ward 2 newsletter. With that, you'll be notified about these meetings as well as council and planning commission meetings. Some board membership updates. At the January meeting, we will re-agendize board officer elections. So that will be chair, vice chair, and secretary. The resolution requires that we do elections the beginning of every calendar year. So you'll see that coming up. So if you're interested in serving in any of those positions, want to ask me or your officers any questions, feel free to do that. If you're interested in serving as the board secretary, we have a new board secretary guide online. It's on the Ward 2 NAB page at Reno.Gov/boards. It's also on this opening Reno.Gov/boards homepage. Just click on the documents and you'll find the board secretary guide there. Member Keller has resigned, so there are 2 current vacancies on the board, 1 regular member and 1 alternate member. Just a note on resignations, if you're going to resign, just make sure you let the board chair know or me know so we can log it into the record. If you're looking for your term date information, it's on the Ward 2 NAB page at Reno.Gov/boards. I know we have a few members with terms ending in early 2026, so if you're eligible and interested in continuing to serve on the board, you can submit an application for reappointment. Some engagement opportunities. There's a Reno Urban Forestry Commission meeting tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. The Moana Pool is hosting a holiday movie night this weekend. They're showing Elf. And then there's a Lear community meeting in January, on January 10th from 10 to 12 at the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. And then if you view this presentation online, you can view that link for more information. It's also on the city's website at Reno.Gov. All right, some notes on feedback and public comment. You have two projects before you today. Because the site plan's not heard before the Planning Commission or City Council, your comments are going to be forwarded directly to the staff planner and included in the final staff report. So ideally, if we can get these worksheets in by the end of the week, the last time I checked, the decision date for this project is December 24th. I'm not sure if that's still the current date. The developer might have some notes on that. But the earlier you can get those in, the earlier I can get them to the staff planner for review. The abandonment is scheduled for City Council in late January. So if you can get those back by about January 5th, give you some extra time over the holidays, I can get those into staff. Board officers, please coordinate who's going to be submitting public comment for these items. Again, you can submit comment online, in person, or in writing. Happy to talk about how to submit those if you need anything. Chair, depending on how you want to go, I can move into the training. It's short, or we can pick it up in January. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good to me.
And I
Okay.
just want to reiterate something she said, which is that if your interest is in the lot and cell phone tower, it is, she corrected me, a site plan review, right?
Mhm.
Is it called minor?
I think it's technically a minor, yes.
So it is an actual discretionary permit that the staff issued. It's not a building permit, so it will follow the usual that are set out for all.
What's that?
So
Okay.
I think we can go to projects discussion. The first item we have, B1 is the lot and communication facility. As Councilmember Dewar indicated, you kind of step this up, you made it happen, so we can hear from the developer directly. It's not something that is required for them in their process as they seek the project. So I always appreciate developers that are willing to come to us, and I hope that we can kind of show them back to they present tonight and ask her questions accordingly. Thanks.
Allie, when you show this, can you put your view on speaker view? I think it's called.
What would you like to see? You'd like to see the room?
No, the person that's gonna speak.
Okay. Let me see.
Versus gallery. So it's up in the upper right hand corner. I think it's called view.
Yeah, I can't see it on my screen.
I just want people to be able to see.
Nope.
And guys, I don't know if y'all can hear me. If you can, this is James McNichol, and I don't think I have a camera button in this screen that I can see anywhere. I do have a camera if we could figure out how to get it on. I just don't think don't think it gives me an option for that.
Well, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
9.
All right.
Sure. A little closer. So under view, I can't actually see.
Because it's up here, but
Yep.
there's no view.
Okay.
You're looking to see the speaker because he
Well, what
doesn't
did
have
you
a.
press to show this?
This is just my screen.
Yeah.
I can't cast this
Okay.
up there.
All right. Well,
Just keep looking.
Okay.
Okay, James, when you're ready, go ahead, sir.
Okay, that sounds good, guys. Hey, thanks for everybody's time, and thanks for everybody that came out and took the time to stand up and be heard. I think all these things are incredibly important. I did want to do just a little bit of housekeeping if I can. And I guess first and foremost, let me say I'm James McNichol. I work with B&T Group, and we're representing the developer here, which is a company called SBA. They are a tower developer nationwide. They're one of the major players in this industry and do a lot within the cell phone industry. I did want to kind of clear up a couple of things early on, if I could. First and foremost, this property where the tower site is being proposed belongs to Union Pacific Railroad Company. And they may be doing something out there on the parcel that I'm not aware of, but as far as I'm concerned and my client is concerned, no work is being done on this cell phone tower in advance of this approval. So there is whatever's happening out there is something that Union Pacific is doing. It has nothing to do with our project, as far as I know. Secondary to that, I wanted to point out that I have had, multiple communications with staff over the last few months, different conversations that we've had, and staff at every point has made it very, very clear that they have concerns about the height at which we're proposing the tower and how, what the code says it should be versus what we're proposing. And basically, my client and the carrier that they're working with, everybody is kind of taking that into account. They're doing a lot of work right now to see if they can't find a way to make some changes to the proposal to accommodate some of the concerns that everybody has. I can't, necessarily get into what that might look like, but the bottom line is we are making an effort
to show his picture. Okay. Maybe click on his box.
James, did you want to move on to the next slide or?
Sure. Yeah. Do you have to move it? Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. So the next one here, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about why a wireless facility like this is needed. This is something that most laymen don't really get a handle on, but when you have increased population, whether it's people visiting the river in the summertime, whatever it happens to be, but anything that causes that.
He's just being promoted to a panelist, so then we'll be able to see him. Oh, so that's what's happening.
James, you're muted.
Oh, all right. I'm getting there. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
All right. There we go. All right. Can you guys see me now? All right.
Sure can.
Awesome. Okay, good. So anyway, basically one of the key things with a wireless facility, really anywhere, and this is something that we're dealing with, increased populations, and also not just the amount of population that you have, but also the amount of data usage. You guys, yeah, everybody carries a cell phone. Everybody, that's in my age group at least has, grew up talking on a phone, and that's the way we always thought about it. But these days, none of us just talk on the phone. We watch TV on our cell phones. We watch movies on our cell phones. We do social media on our cell phones. They're an integral part of our life. And that increased data usage creates what we call in the industry a capacity issue, basically meaning that you might have coverage. Some of the other towers that are around town might be able to reach to your phone and cause your phone to show, 2 bars, 3 bars, whatever it happens to be. But the amount of data that your phone is going to be using to operate is just not available from those distances. So that's kind of why you have to get some infill in this system, and you have to have a situation where over time it just takes more and more of these facilities to handle the demand, essentially. And that's basically, what this slide is talking about. Can you go to the next slide for me? So the next site here, we're talking a little bit about why height matters. And I've already mentioned that this is something that we're looking at, and we're trying to figure out a way to make it, more compatible. But in the general scope of things, we did set up all of this presentation to be able to show you guys kind of, what the differences are with the heights and why it does make a difference. Obviously, the topography makes a difference. And then we've got when we talk about 100-foot provides, meaningful, reliable service. That's basically what, when the RF engineers looked at this, they said, if we need to provide service inside this area and infill, that's what they felt like initially it would take to do it. Can you go to the next slide for me? Okay. Site location is located near the railroad corridor and an existing infrastructure. Setbacks are significant from nearby residents and unmanned, fenced, and quiet facility. Go to the next slide. Okay, the setbacks are met. We have the nearest residential zoning is approximately 530 feet away, and this property would have controlled access with minimal ground disturbance. Give me the next slide. All right. So we did some what we call photo simulations here, which I'll show you guys in just a minute. These are basically just where we took some pictures from the area from different locations, and you guys that are local here will recognize some of these locations. Obviously, we can't do them, everywhere, but we tried to scatter them around. And basically, this next few slides will just give you an idea what, and again, this is all done at 100 feet, but it would give you an idea what it might look like from certain areas. And I'm hoping that'll be helpful to some of you. Next slide, please. Okay. These I don't know how big of a screen that you guys are looking at when you look at this, but essentially you can tell the upper yellow mark in the photo location map on the left is where the tower is being proposed. And then this shot was taken, kind of just across the Truckee River Bridge going south into the neighborhood. And if you look, the upper right is the photo essentially, and then as you go down into the photo in the bottom right, if you see that little white representation of the tower, now the tower would not be visible from this spot at all; it would be hidden by the trees. But that gives you an idea what the scale of it would be from that spot, from that distance away. Okay, let's go to simulation number 2. Okay, this one we kind of got some shots from down inside the neighborhood, different ways. So you can see that we pulled over in front of some of the houses there, and these shots we did not visit the neighborhood to actually physically take these shots, but these are taken from Google Earth. But essentially, you can see in the upper picture the tower is not visible; it's hidden behind the house, and then again to the south, or in the lower picture, you have a visual representation of, if you could see the tower from that spot, that's what it would look like, but you can't see it because of the houses there. All right, and we can go to simulation number 3. This one we moved up to the north and took a shot there, and you can kind of see this one from this location on the road. There's a lot there that's got some kind of a ridge or a hill on it. Looked like some earthwork had been done there. And essentially, you can see in the upper picture to the right that there's, that's the view, and then down below you would see just the very tip of that tower. Maybe the top 10 feet or so sticking up above that ridge from that location. All right, number 4. All right, this one again we moved over to the. This looks like we're north and west of the tower there, looking back down at it. And again, this is one where we can't see the tower from this location looking down in, but you can kind of see the representation of it in the bottom right there. And let's go to simulation number 5. Okay, this one is back over in the neighborhood to the south, and again, you're kind of if you had a view, looking due east towards the tower there, you can kind of see that you're again looking at houses, and it looks like the tower, might be between the two houses there, but it's still not visible over the trees. Okay, and I think there might be one more simulation there. Yep, got it. Okay. Let's see here. And this one again was taken, from the neighborhood there. And same thing. You can see as far away as we are how small that tower is. So it's not, really visible from that area. And that doesn't mean that you wouldn't see it from some places. If you're in an upper bedroom window in one of those houses, and looking out, you might catch a glimpse of it through the trees. But I thought it was important for everybody to see the scale and distance of it. The further away you get, obviously, the smaller it is. So that does, make a difference. Let's move to the next slide. This tower is being proposed as 100-foot, what we call a shielded monopole, basically meaning that the antennas are behind covers on the tower. And I'll show you guys in just a minute kind of a rough idea what that looks like. There are a couple of alternative designs, that we could look at and consider if people wanted to, but let's go to the next slide. So to the left there, you'll see, what shows up in a lot of different places is a pine tree tower. Probably not a great, idea there just because there's no other trees in close proximity to where the tower site is. So these are typically designed to hide a tower within trees, that kind of thing. And then the one in the middle is kind of what we're proposing here. And then the one over to the right would be a standard monopole. So basically the antennas that you see on that pole there are behind the covers on the center pole. So when we say shielded monopole, that's basically what we're saying is there's going to be an antenna array like that, but it's going to be hidden behind those covers. All right. Let's move to the next one. Okay, safety and operations. The tower sites are regulated by the Federal Communication Commission. All emissions from the tower will be well below federal limits. Because the tower is so short, there would be no lighting on the tower unless the FAA required it for some reason. So this would not be any kind of like a flashing light or a airport light, anything like that. And then there's no real noise, traffic, or on-site staff with these sites. When you put a site in like this, the traffic that it generates is what we call one trip in a month, meaning that like once a month somebody might visit the site to do brief work and then be gone. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So the next slide, I tried to give you guys some coverage maps. This is something that's just going to be kind of interesting. I know everybody's got their opinions about what they think the coverage is currently, and what they need, what they don't need, that kind of thing. But this map will just give you an idea about the difference between 100 feet versus 55 feet, and what it means, from a coverage perspective. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. So this is at the 700 megahertz range. You can kind of see that when we're talking about coverage in these plots, what you see as the green, going into yellow. Green would typically be considered very, very good cell phone coverage. Full bars. You can do anything you want on your phone. That sort of thing. When you start to get into the yellow, that gets into where, okay, if you're inside your house or inside a car, your coverage might not be quite as good, but it's still very functional. And then red starts to get in where, okay, I'd probably have to be, outside the house to make it work as well as I would like, that kind of thing. And then the different frequencies project different plot maps, different propagation, we call it, which is why I did two of these maps. So if we go to the next one, you'll see at 2100 megahertz, it doesn't carry quite as well. So basically it's a little less, but that's the general area of the coverage of this tower. So there's a lot of things that get said about, cell phone towers that, they're worried about, covering the whole town, all this kind of stuff. Well, it's nothing like that. The purpose of this tower is to serve this community. It's not, it won't have the capacity at 100 feet or 55 feet to project beyond what you see here. That's its sole purpose. And the number of phones and the amount of data being used within this area, it's worth it for the carriers to pay to serve this area. So. Okay, and then the next slide will be the last one, I believe. And I'm just saying thank you for your time. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Great. Thank you, James. I will now open up questions to the board. Any questions? The NAB board.
I'll start.
Okay.
Bill. Member Shrimp, first of all, Councilmember Dewar, Mr. Nichols, thank you for asking him to be here.
Yeah.
Mr. Nichols, I guess you're in Florida, so it's late. Thank you for
Yes.
being here. I also live in that neighborhood, and radio stations don't work in my house.
Really?
Or I guess I'm the one guy. But yeah, the cell phone doesn't work in my house. And so I saw the cell phone tower and I really had mixed feelings about it. Because yeah, once 100-foot tower driving in and out of the neighborhood, but also I like my phone to work. So I'm on both sides of the fence. My specific question is your coverage maps, 700 megahertz and the 2100 megahertz. Can you put those in layman's terms for me? Is that like 5G, 4G? What is that?
So basically all coverage that you're going to see from any new cell phone tower is 5G, effectively. 5G is really, it does come with some frequency changes, but in general terms, it's really a set of guidelines that they have to meet that have to do with upload and download speed. It really has more to do with the fiber optic feeding into the tower than it does the frequencies or the antennas on the tower. It has to do with how fast the tower can process data and transmit it back to the cell phone. So that's really the key when they talk about 5G, but anything new that you see being built right now would be classified as a 5G tower. I, the carrier that's doing this one is, their frequencies really aren't any different between 5G and everything else that they do. So,
I guess my question is on my 4-year-old Samsung phone that doesn't work in my house, frequencies are using. Is my coverage going to get better or not?
Yeah, well, initially it would depend on which carrier you're with, because there is one carrier they're working with on this site, and if it's that one, then yes, your coverage would get a lot better. And if it's not, then it might take some time for your carrier to realize that you've got a problem and step in to fix it, which they would be able to do on the same tower.
So I'm looking at the 700 megahertz map, and it looks like the difference in number of at least residential customers is on 700 megahertz. Is pretty minimal. There's not a big difference there between 50 and 100 feet on the tower. On 21 megahertz, that does seem to be a little more impactful on the number of customers the tower could serve. So if they did build a 55-foot tower, does it still pencil?
I'm sorry, you said if they build a 55-foot tower, what was the last part of that?
Does the project still pencil out?
That's what they're trying to work out right now, and that's what staff is actually pushing SBA to do. And SBA is looking at that. So, we're going to see where we fall. And the answer might be, somewhere in between, ultimately, but they are staff has absolutely said, we don't like it this way. How close can we get to that way? So I just didn't want anybody to think that staff wasn't actually, reading the room the same way you guys are. They absolutely are.
Okay. No, and I appreciate that. And it's just the surrounding buildings, warehouses, the industrial over there, there's 40-foot-ish, so to have something that's, more than double the height of the existing structures is gonna stick out.
Sure.
But yeah, thank you for making the time. I know it's late then.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Okay, we have more comments from the board.
James, while we're queuing up the next commenter, are you allowed to say what provider would be there?
I believe that the carrier that they're working with, and they don't always give us all of this data, but I believe they're working with Verizon.
Okay.
And I can glean some of that by looking at the frequencies that they're using, but ultimately, yeah, I believe that's what they're dealing with.
Hi, James. This is membership for the record. I'm curious if you've looked at alternative site within this valley for the tower, or are you just tied to the land, the Union Pacific land specifically?
So SBA does have a deal in place with Union Pacific Railroad for the use of this property. And we did go back and look at some of obviously Union Pacific owns a lot of property along that corridor right there, quite a bit. But I think the coverage objective that the carrier is looking for is the main reason that they're in the spot they're in. It's because they're trying to serve the residents to the north, the residents to the southwest, and the commercial area to the south. That's what they're really trying to do, and that's why they're where they are. As far as whether they looked at other private properties around that weren't UPRR, I couldn't tell you that, but I do know they've got a deal in place with the railroad. And there's some compatibility stuff there as well. Putting the site next to the railroad means we're not putting it next to, a neighborhood or a park or, that kind of thing. So.
If you are putting next to a neighborhood.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Member Ginsburg, it just rests in your name. Okay. Any other questions? The entirety of the Zoom meeting dropped. People online can't hear or see.
They can't.
That's what I'm being told.
James, are you hearing us?
I can hear you. I didn't, I can hear you very well. The last person that was
Okay.
speaking, I was getting pieces of it, but I didn't get everything.
Okay.
Well, what he said was some people got dropped off the Zoom, and if we can pass it on, they should try to redial in. And that happens sometime. It would be helpful though, if anyone's listening, if you could raise your hand if you can hear us. That's listening on the Zoom, if you could raise your virtual hand.
They're hearing us.
Okay, it looks like most of them hear us, but the people that dropped off should try to link on again. Okay, thank you for raising your hand.
Okay, James, this is member Sean McCoy. I just kind of wanted to just piggyback a little bit off what my colleague Bill was talking about. And that is the coverage map you showed. It seems a little questionable to me when we double the size of the tower, but we're not getting a double the size of the coverage. And so I'm wondering if there's, and it sounds like you are working with staff and perhaps with Verizon to see if there's some kind of lower number that works. But it definitely seems like if 55 is kind of the go point and you guys are going for 104, is it really worth, is the juice worth the squeeze on this height increase? And I look forward to kind of hearing as this goes through the process, whether or not 55 still pencils out, as Bill put it. But I definitely think that's something that should be looked at. Because the purpose, as you said, is to serve this community. Like that's the sole purpose. And I think it's always interesting when we hear some of these projects. We very rarely hear people from the community saying, yes, I want this. It's usually people coming out saying, this is why we don't want it here. And yet the development plan is for their benefit that they don't actually want. So I'm heartened to hear that you're open to discussion and feedback from the community, given that this project is meant to serve them. If they don't actually want it, then maybe it's not for them. That's something that you guys should be considering. So thank you for your time. I think we're gonna add our questions. Anything else from the board before we move on? No, you're okay.
It's someone online as well.
Oh, and do we have a member online?
Not a member, just a comment, I believe. Yeah.
So again, we have 28 minutes for this meeting tonight. So let's open this up. Unless I see any objection.
Open it up to comment. Sure. Do you want to start online or in the room?
I'd like to go with room.
Okay. I don't have any comment cards, so we'll just have to go.
Please come up here so we can hear, identify who you are for the record, and just kind of be respectful of the 27 minutes we have left for tonight's meeting so that everybody can be. Thank you.
Whoever would like to come up first.
Can you pull up those simulations that you pulled up originally?
Let me just go back. You're looking for these?
Like very beginning of the presentation. Yeah, yeah. Keep going. Sorry, to
Other way.
position one. Oh yeah. Okay. How many of you guys, sorry, I'll stand. How many of you guys have looked at the real estate photos and they've used those super wide angle lenses to like make the room look bigger? I feel like there's this message of good intention with that, like we care about the community, we're doing whatever we can to make the pole look good. This is how it's not going to really impact the people that live there. These are wide angle lenses distorting the view so that it's minimizing the impact of the cell phone tower. This is totally disingenuous to what it would be like if you're living in this neighborhood. And I see these simulations, you can go through them. It's all the same thing. It's low down, wide angle, showing half the cement to minimize the actual impact. So when you come here and say you care about the community, we're doing everything we can, and you show us these photos, how can you think this is going to pass with us? We are not stupid. This is a distorted angle minimizing the impact of the cell phone tower. So unless they come back with something that's realistic, that actually shows that when I look out my window, I am going to see this cell phone tower, I can't believe anything these people are saying. And I don't want it there. I am the community. I don't hear one person here fighting for this cell phone. That's what I have to say.
Let me ask Kelly, can you
Yes.
get that comment back to the planning staff? Because I don't know when they're gonna watch this, but, and perhaps they will want to request some additional photo simulations from some different angles using a different program than Google Earth.
Well, we'll just take pictures with the real camera.
Yeah, we have those pictures.
We have them.
You can always submit them on a public comment. You can email them in. Good.
All right. Hey, James, how's this gonna be powered? What's the backup power? And are you aware that this neighborhood is consistently without power?
I was not aware that the neighborhood is consistently without power, so appreciate that. Now these sites use a standard single phase, each carrier would have a 200 amp meter, so it powers exactly like somebody's home does or a business, no different. In some cases, the carriers do put backup generators on the site to have power in case of a power outage, but they don't always do that. It's just something that's their discretion. If they notice that there's a problem in the neighborhood, they would address it that way. The sites also operate on DC power inside. Basically, they operate with a standard AC setup, but they have big battery banks inside the cabinets, and they run on DC power. So if you have a power outage that's anything less than 12 hours, the system will continue to run uninterrupted regardless of the power. And then they'll have a backup generator for anything that goes on beyond that if they deem they need it.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I'll just make a couple comments. I would venture to guess that at least half these people served here are only there from 9 to 5 during the day, and they work inside of those big windowless buildings in the area. And then they go home at night and they never have to look at it. And they're probably also pulling from their company's Wi-Fi while they're there, if I had to guess. And then my other comment is, I just want to make sure that we're keeping this in perspective. I mean, it's pretty standard practice to come in high, literally, shock values of 100 feet, and then settle for a compromise here at 50 feet, where it's like, feel like I don't want to be compromising here. This is like either the tower's here or it's not. I just want to keep that perspective. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. That's exactly where I was going with this. We're talking whether we're, Matt Leary for the record, we're discussing whether or not we're going to have a 50 or 100-foot tower. We want zero tower. This neighborhood survived just fine with the internet during COVID. I was teaching my classes at the university online. We didn't need any more power than we are. Number one. Number two, have you guys done your due diligence and looked at the winds out there? We have 80-mile-an-hour winds in our neighborhood. How is a 100-foot tower going to do in that area? Number three, this is Union Pacific. They are not our friends. They block our neighborhood on a regular basis. Why would we bend over backwards to help them when they won't even move their damn trains so we can get to work? So, lastly, there are some other states, I won't say which, where you have to put up a mock to show that what the neighborhood's going to look like. You have to put up a 100-foot tower made of net, so everyone can see what it is before they approve it. We have no idea what this is going to look like, and these pictures were fundamentally useless between the fisheye lens and the angle they chose, and they didn't even give us a picture going into the neighborhood where we're going to see this damn tower. They give us nothing. So, if you guys, as an advisory board, are going to do anything, turn this down, because this is absurd. Having something like this, an eyesore this close to the river in a neighborhood of 240 houses. So my suggestion is turn it down. Send it back. If they want to fight it, everybody in the neighborhood pony up $1,000. $240,000 might be pretty good to fight this. And I'll pay $1,000 to keep it in my neighborhood.
Thank you, Matt.
If you go back to the image we got,
Yep.
I think to the one that showed the park court and the tower location. Again, my name is Wesley Leadblad. I'm a safety engineer.
Sorry.
That wasn't perfect. This one first right here. If you've done any research on this tower projected location, the elevation associated with where that tower is and the River Park neighborhood is typically is right around the same. It's about 1,100 feet, 1,100 meters. It's basic trig. You can define how far you can actually see this tower from your house, and it's basically about half a mile. Every single house along this corridor will see that tower. It's almost insulting, James, with the picture you showed this committee of how it's actually going to affect the community, because they're just blatantly wrong. You didn't even take into account the trail, the Tom Cook Trail that is just to the southeast of here, or the River Park Walkway, or any of the any of the other areas within the river that people recreate on all the time. And so, all I gotta say is do better. That's my main statement. So, yeah, half a mile from that tower location is where you can see that tower. And every single house in that 85% of those houses in that neighborhood are 2 stories. You'll see it from your window. That's insane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, my name's Larry Merkel. Wes and I set up a drone right where that spot is, to 100 foot. And we pan 36. There's no way that cannot be seen. Now, Wes has submitted those photos at 100 foot, 75 foot, and 50 foot. There's going to be a lot of exposure. And I keep on hearing is, we need this. Who asked for it? Who asked for it? When you say, yeah, right, but nobody in my neighborhood asked for it. Usually there's a need when somebody asks. I don't think anybody's asked for it. I've been there 18 years. There's a lot of my neighborhood's been there that long. We learned to adjust to the cell phone coverage. There are other means to get cell coverage than 100 foot, 75 foot, or 50 foot tower. It's there. This is not easy.
I've got one more statement. I have Verizon cell phone service, and I've done a self-test.
I'm so sorry.
I have Verizon cell phone service, and I've done a self-test to determine what the actual service is in that corridor, and I was able to hit 500 megabytes of actual data downloads on my phone consistently across the entire area of the River Park neighborhood. This does not provide additional cell phone service in that area. It might provide some people better service, but again, with my phone, walking around the neighborhood, I was downloading 500 megabyte data bits, and I've presented that information to Mike Friday. So what he's presenting doesn't actually increase the cell phone service for a lot of individuals. That's already there.
Chair, would you like to move online?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is it, I can't remember who it is. Behind Melissa.
Raul Morales.
Thank you.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Okay. Hey, James, I just want to thank you for presenting today. I think most of us recognize you are the messenger here. I also hope that you recognize you have a great responsibility to relay what you've heard today to the folks with whatever SBB, whomever SBA, whoever you're working with, to let them know kind of what you're hearing today. So first off, I want to say, I think everyone realizes when we see cell towers, when we travel, they're usually on mountaintops. And there's a reason why engineers put them on mountaintops, because of where your coverage map, so which I will get to here in a second, eloquently shows, is you get better coverage when it's on a mountaintop. Where this proposed is in a valley. It's on a river valley that is surrounded by hills. So the map of the coverage, when I saw that coverage map, I said, that's not very good coverage. 90% of where your coverage is going to go into this neighborhood that you're hearing people from today, right? Of which there's over 200 houses. I don't know who the customers are who said they needed this. I think you're hearing clearly it's not the neighbors. My recommendation, if you want one to elevate up, is you should have the company come knock door to door on every one of those houses. There's only a little over 200 houses there, and ask them, do they want a cell tower in the backyard? I think they're going to hear very clearly the answer is going to be no. I can see it from my second story house very clearly from where it's at. I have Verizon, and I can tell you right now, if it's to get better coverage for me in Verizon versus having a cell tower, I'm going to say no to the cell tower because I've taken care of it by getting a landline. Landlines are cheap these days. $10 a month through Spectrum. I have a landline. I can get out whenever I want to. If there's people working in our house that have AT&T, T-Mobile, or whatever, when they want to get service, they just drive across that bridge of the picture you showed, and on the flats right across from the Patagonia, they can talk to whoever they need to right there. So I really don't know what this or who this cell tower is really serving. Right? There are some minor inconveniences, but they're not inconveniences that cannot be overdone. Right? So, and just FYI, James, you mentioned you weren't sure about any work that was going on the railroad right away. This site you pointed to that the cell tower is going to go in, that was the work that happened all summer long. That they spent probably definitely over $1 million moving rocks, moving dirt. The other suggestion is, those pictures, and I agree with what the people said in the pictures are because I walked by that tree, took a picture by the bridge, and that's kind of where my dog likes to go potty. And you're right, if I'm standing underneath that tree where my dog likes to go potty, I'm not going to see the tower. But if I move 10 or 15 feet back, I'll see the tower. Reno doesn't have tall trees. If we have a 50-foot tree in Reno, that's a pretty tall tree by Reno standards. Okay, this isn't the Pacific Northwest.
Thank you, Raul. Your
Yeah.
time is up.
Okay, and then just want to end real quick. If Union Pacific wants ideas on what to do with that plot of land, ask the neighbors. I bet you we can come up with some really good ideas on what to do with that plot of land that will enhance the river corridor.
Okay. Next up we have Amy.
Oh, thank you. And James, thanks for presenting. My question, you had referenced emergency services and being able to access, first responders being able to access, and that's what the cell phone will better provide. I am an emergency services provider. I've been a nurse practitioner for over 20 years. My husband works in search and rescue. He works in rural Nevada doing flight nursing, et cetera. And I guess my question is, has there been research that's been done in this specific area where you're finding it difficult for first responders to respond to emergencies? Because obviously that's something that's going to really, resonate with us. We care about our people in our community and we want people to be safe, but I've not had that experience in any of my time in my profession in this area specifically. And I don't know if you've been to this area, Nevada, rural Nevada, but most of Nevada is rural and most of Nevada is, anyway, I'm wondering, I guess, if you've had any research that has gone into that comment that you included on your slide.
Sure, Amy, and thank you to you and your husband for your service out there. I know that's incredible work that you guys do to keep everybody safe and healthy, But essentially, when we make a statement like that on the slides, it has to do with the ability of people to call. There's some statistics out there, and you've probably seen some of this stuff in your line of work, but there's it's a crazy number. Something like 98% of all 911 calls now are made from a cell phone. There's almost no landline 911 calls made anymore. It just doesn't happen. If somebody sees something that requires a call of 911, they take their phone out of their pocket and do it. Nobody goes back to the house to pick up the phone and call. That sort of thing. So when we say, and it's not just us, the FCC, says it also. The FCC has recognized since the mid 90s that cell phone service is a key and integral part of emergency services. And basically a lot of the rules that they have federally that all, come down to the local neighborhoods are based in that principle that this is a needed thing. Everybody's got to have it to make it, for the systems to operate appropriately and for you guys to get the calls that you need. The systems have to function. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that happens, that way. But I do appreciate your question and appreciate your service. Thank you.
I think my point was that you were mentioning, that we need to have that, and I'll try to be cognizant of time. But I guess just, I've seen life flight helicopters land in the field behind our place, done from a cell phone. So, unfortunately, a mountain biker got into an accident, and I've seen them come down from the trail themselves, right there. And there's never been. We have ambulance cover. I mean, we don't. I guess I would just say we don't need the tower. I think you're hearing that very clear. So I'll thank you for your time.
Yeah, and yes, ma'am, I am definitely, hearing everybody that's speaking, but everybody, I think, also has to remember that there's a lot of citizens in this community, and you guys are obviously a cross section of that, but you're not the entire community. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there, and I've been doing this for a very long time. It's a whole lot easier to get a whole bunch of people to come out that are upset about something than it is to get a whole bunch of people to come out that are happy about something. But it doesn't mean the people that are happy about it don't exist, and that they're not out there, and the people that are like, yeah, my cell phone service sucks. I'd like to have it a lot better. When I switch over to my Wi-Fi and try to go to voice over IP calling, it's terrible. It doesn't work right. When I'm on a conference call, but I have to leave and get in my car and go somewhere, it's going to drop when I step outside my front door. All of that is because your system is not operating the way it's supposed to and the way it's designed to operate. You're having to find these fixes and band-aids. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. So anyway, but I certainly hear everything that everybody's saying, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to express it, and it will be passed along and discussed thoroughly.
I have, you have one more. Is Ken here?
Ken, you can unmute your mic.
What is that?
Ken, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Not getting anything from you, Ken.
About now, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. So I appreciate, I just want to reiterate one thing that I'd said is that I appreciate that you're saying this is to serve the community. But again, as several of us have iterated from the beginning, the way this is rolled out has not indicated that the community was taken into consideration. It feels like it did not happen with good notice, did not happen with good communication with the community, haven't understood a lot of it. I see no interest or motion or effort to try and blend it in with the community and in with, the aesthetic of the local area or take into consideration the Truckee River corridor. So I'm not, I understand that some people, maybe there's somebody who's in favor, but I'm not getting a community vibe out of this at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. All right, we've got 7 minutes left. Another presentation on the docket.
James, I saw in a memo from the staff that they asked you to submit some information. I think it was by yesterday, Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that submitted?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Okay. And did they tell your application's complete now?
I don't know that I've gotten the full everything is complete, but I did get word that they had gotten everything we submitted and they're reviewing it.
Okay, so my understanding is this probably would not be issued until around January 13th, roughly January 12th, 30 days from the date it's complete. So that's my understanding, as far as they originally had an potential issue date of December 24th. But my understanding is it's 30 days from when it's deemed complete, they have all the information. So I just will need some more information from planning staff on that. If we could get that out, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And the other question I had for you, James, is most of these houses are to the south looking north, I think at the river. And is that right? Is that the orientation? Okay. So the cell tower is positioned to the north of most of the homes, I think. And I guess that's because that's where the railroad land is. But is it possible that you can do a deal with some other person's land? I mean, this is renting land from the railroad. but could you rent land or lease land from somebody else to make it not in the view path towards the river?
I I appreciate the question. The basically the long and short of it is we rent land from private individuals all the time. It's a common thing, can be done anywhere. Things can move up and down. The premise of this location was based on the RF need, not particularly on the availability of the real estate. And then you also have to remember that, if you move it 1,000 feet this way or 1,000 feet that way, you're making it better for this group, but now I got a different group of people I got to talk to.
Right, but I'm trying to respond to this point about that they're in a low spot and there may be higher spots around them. There's hills all around. So I didn't know, even if you had a 50-foot tower or something taller, it seemed like you might have better reception or the bandwidth. I'm not sure the technical.
Sure. Let me, I know we're running out of time and I know you got another thing you've got to hit, but just real quick, for all of us in the room that are old enough to remember when cell phones first started, we used to have what they call bag phones and truck mounted phones, car mounted phones. Do you guys remember all that? Right. Yeah. So those phones transmitted at 10 watts of power. That's what they operated at. And you could have, two towers way on a hill, way outside of the town of Reno, and everything worked perfectly fine. Now the iPhone that everybody carries in their pocket transmits at 0.3 of 1 watt is what it's transmitting at. So it really, the towers have to be a lot closer to the handset for it to work the way it's supposed to. And that's the real driver of it. When you're trying to infill and you're trying to make things better, they already know they've got the towers on the hills on the outside and they're saying that's not good enough. So now they're coming to the inside to try to put something in, but they're going to place it strategically to try to pick up as many of those handsets as they can. But that's what it's really all about. At the end of the day, the driver is not how much power or RF that the tower is putting out. It's the phone's ability to get back to the tower that makes the system operate. And that's the limiting factor.
Well, thank you for explaining that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, one more question on that.
What would you like to do, Chair? There's 3 minutes left in the meeting.
What is staff able to do in the next 3 minutes?
I mean, do you have?
Depends on you. We have to adjourn the meeting at 7:30.
But we don't, the room is available longer, but you have to go.
Moana Nursery staff will be here at 7:30 to close out the
Okay.
meeting. We have to adjourn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been meeting here for going on 12 years and they always came at 8:30. So I'm not
Right.
sure.
Yeah, it's just that the resolution establishes that we have to adjourn 2 hours from the beginning of the meeting. And Moana Nursery staff has been made aware that that hard line is 7:30.
When is the next item? Is it coming to council?
I believe it's going to council on January 28th.
28th, so that'll be after our next NAB meeting.
Yes.
So that's. I mean, there's people that represent and
I believe it's an option for them to come back to the NAB. They've been scheduled, they were here. So I can check with staff, but I don't know that we can require them to come back. But we can explore that with them.
I'd like to next presentation.
we're just talking about having them come back at the January NAB since we're out of time.
So then would that push the
They would
The
still
council
hear
date?
January council, which is very typical.
So they would still appear at that meeting, but they wouldn't have been.
They would come to the NAB meeting at third week in January. The council meeting is the fourth week.
I see.
It would be before the next meeting.
And you can come to the next meeting and provide any comments you like, whether they do or not. It sounds like they've been agendized and under the rules, they don't have to be forced to come back to the next meeting. We have to adjourn this at their time stop. But that doesn't mean that public comment could not be made at any future meeting on anything you would like to discuss. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
You can also provide it to staff, so.
And you can provide it to this board, and
that list of questions, that'd be appropriate for me to give them to you now, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
Well, we should at least have final public comment. We're at
We have a minute for public comment.
Well, I don't know that there's any more.
Right. Okay, so we are moving past item B2. We're going into item B, boards, commissions. I don't have any announcements. Any announcements from fellow members? Moving on to the final public comment under the agenda. Looking around the room, looking on Zoom, seeing no public comment. Moving on to item F, looking for adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Chris Montana, I motion to adjourn. Thank you tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you're adjourned.
If we're here for that last item.
Thank you.
It'll be.